Hello, my friends. Here I am, Pedro Candeias from Portugal. I'm the founder of Karate Science Academy. And if you are following, okay, this cycle of strength and conditioning analysis of some elite WKF Kumite or Kata athletes, you already know what we are doing. If you are new in this video, please go back and watch if you want the last four analyses I made. Okay, Sandra Sanchez, Kiyoshimizu, the Iran Kumite male team, and Damian Quintero. Okay, and today I bring you 4 videos that athletes as Ugur Aktas from Turkey, Gabor Rapatsky, yes, I think so, from Hungary, okay. I'm Portuguese, my English is not perfect, okay. Luigi Busa from Italy and Steven da Costa from France. All of them were medalists in the Olympic Games in this summer. So let's watch what they used to prepare to their physical conditioning. And I'm trying to, in 20 minutes, that's the time I have to do this analysis. In 20 minutes, I will try to give you the most valuable possible, okay, in terms of what the most recent evidence knows about what we are watching. Okay, so let's go. Let's start by sharing my screen. Of course, make me bigger. Okay, and so first video: Ugur Aktas performing a counter movement jump. Okay. Great power, okay, but let's see some details here. Okay, Ugur Aktas is performing what is called a counter movement jump, okay, horizontal because it could be vertical. Yes, okay. So according to the time I have available, I'm going to highlight here a situation that I think it's very, very important. If you want to develop your karateka speed and power with this kind of exercise, you probably are working with a plyometric training protocol to develop the reactive strength of your karatekas through a mechanism called stretch shortening cycle. Okay, so I'm going to explain all of this next week in our special online event, Move Faster in Kumite and Kata, where I'm going to share with you from 23 to 27 of August 3 very deep and practical master classes, totally open for all karatekas in the world. And I'm going to share, for example, everything science knows about plyometric training, a huge method, a great method for karate. Okay, so when we make this kind of training, the main focus of most of coaches and athletes is to jump as further as possible. Okay. That might be a goal, but should not be the priority for Kumite athletes. Why? We can focus on two different priorities with this kind of exercise, or we can mix both in a more advanced level. But when we start, our karatekas will focus on the jump distance or making the transition in the counter movement. The counter movement is this, okay, this transition between the eccentric and the concentric phase of the stretch shortening cycle. Okay, we can ask our karatekas, athletes or non-athletes, you can perfectly use this in your regular karate lessons with all ages, if the technique is good, of course. Okay, but let's let that for next week. You can focus your karateka's attention in the transition, in the speed of this transition between the eccentric and the concentric phase of the movement, or in how further they jump. Okay, so for Kumite, you should focus on the speed of the transition. Okay, why? Because it's a specific goal, different from jumping high, further, okay, longer. And if we think about the characteristics of Kumite, WKF Kumite, which it's what we are talking about because these athletes are from that kind of karate, okay? You need much more to develop the speed into the transition than having them to make a displacement of 2 or 3 meters long, okay? Agree with me? Okay, great. So let's see a specific example. You are attacked, okay? You are attacked by whatever, a Jordan Kizami Tsuki, and you will evade, okay? Will make your knees bend a little, and then you try to counterattack and recover from that position as fast as possible. That is a stretch shortening cycle. That is similar to what Uguraktas is making here, okay? And it's way more important to make a fast transition than making a displacement that will get the opponent 2 or 3 meters in the front, okay? But if you ask your karatekas, especially in the first phase of their evolution, to jump as further as possible, they will make it's not a mistake, okay? It's a strategy to accomplish what you asked for, okay? So they will make a deeper counter movement that will not happen in Kumite, and they will make it a little bit slower because in the first phase of their evolution, they will allow them to jump further. Try it yourself, and you will see that if you make it more pronounced, you can jump further. You can produce more power, but you will lose the stimulus to make the transition faster. I'm not saying that in a more advanced phase of plyometric training, you can't mix both goals. You can and you should. Because if your karateka has the level, coordination, and self-consciousness, okay, of keeping the transition phase very fast and also jumping as further as possible, that's gold. But when you have to prioritize because the intermuscular coordination, the knowledge of the exercise, the self-consciousness of the self-awareness of the karateka is not that good, you should ask him to make the transition phase as fast as possible instead of asking to jump as further as possible. Okay, so let's go forward because I already am 6 minutes talking about this. Okay, Luigi Busa, making a plyometric exercise for the upper limbs using a bar throw in the Smith machine. Okay, this is effective, yes. Okay, you make a very fast transition. It's what he's trying to do clearly between the eccentric and the concentric phase. Great way of improving what's happening here. His reactive strength, his stretch shortening cycle when he pulls the hand bam, bam, to make a punch, for example. Okay, so let's add some value to what I talked already about plyometric training in the last analysis. When we talk about lower limbs plyometric training, the ideal is to work with your body weight only. I'm not saying it's not correct to make assisted plyometric or resisted plyometric with added with external loads, but it won't be more effective in contrast to what people believe, at least in the light of what evidence knows right now about plyometric training, and as some possible issues that I will present you in the event in the next week. But when we are talking about the upper limbs, it's better most of the times to use external loads because that external load will be less than your own body weight. If you compare this type of throw with the plyometric push-ups with your knee straights, for example, you will have, for most of karatekas, an excessive load for a good plyometric push-up, okay? And with this bar that weighs more or less 20 kilograms, you will be able to stimulate your transition in a more effective way. Okay, so you can make it with this kind of equipment or with a medicine ball, for example. So just use it and you will get results, but focus on making it as fast as possible. Okay, third analysis, we have here Gabor from Hungary making what is we can call a Olympic weightlifting variation. So let's go to my word video 2. We watched Buza performing upper limbs plyometric exercise, and here we have Gabor performing a variation or derivation of Olympic weightliftings. Okay, many athletes, karate athletes, are starting to make, as most of the power and speed-based sports in the world are returning to this traditional method, Olympic weightlifting. Okay, is it safe? Yes, as any other method, if you use the correct technique, the proper postural control, with a good progression of loads according to your karateka's physical conditioning and levels of strength. There is nothing to be dangerous, because the risk and the danger is on you, the coach, that might not be well prepared to make that progression and that technical correction, for example. So it's safe if it's well done. Okay, but the original weightliftings, you can, for example, see two of them in a post I made, I put in Karate Science Academy's Instagram, with Ali Sufogu from Turkey, a kata athlete, and Ayumi Wekusa, a Japanese Kumite athlete, that are performing two types of complete Olympic liftings. Okay, the problem with those movements is that they are very complex to make properly without risk of injury, and allowing you to put a really good load to develop your power and speed. Okay, if you want to know everything science knows about the effectiveness of Olympic weightliftings in sports in general, please, I have an entire lesson, 40 or 45 minutes related to it. Okay, just about this theme in YouTube. Just search it and you will find it. Okay, but what Gabor is making, it's what can be called as a variation or derivative of a derivation or derivative of the original liftings. Okay, that is, he only makes a small part of the whole movement. Okay, this will be as effective or even more effective than the complete Olympic lifting. Okay, for two reasons, and it will be faster to learn and to master. Okay, it will be faster to put more load, a greater load in the exercise, and it will allow you to put a greater load if you are training, for example, in the strength zone of power training and speed training, because it doesn't have this phase of the Olympic liftings that not only requires a greater technical execution, but also will negatively affect the load you can put on the bar, and you could stimulate your triple extension of your lower limbs, because if you just bring the bar up to your chest, you can work with a greater load, but if you have to take it to here, you can't make it with an heavier load, and you have to take out some weight. Okay, my brain is boarding right now with my English. So did you understand it? Okay, so if you want to know more about this, please go to that lesson and I share everything evidence knows right now about the utility, effectiveness, safety of this kind of exercises for karate, okay? Now, let's end with a video from Steven da Costa that is performing an exercise, probably an endurance exercise with the battle ropes, okay? And let's talk about endurance training. I won't be able to give you protocols. We don't have time for that, but we have to understand that endurance training is always specific for the sport, okay? It's not the same thing designing an endurance training program for a WKF Kumite athlete or kata athlete. They have some differences, okay? It's not the same preparing the karateka to 5 rounds in a competition of WKF Kumite or for a grading exam that lasts for 3 hours or 5 hours. It's not the same thing preparing a fighter for WKF competition or karate combat fights or a karateka for MMA, because all of them have different demands in terms of endurance, in terms of fatigue management, okay? So it's always specific for the sport or the modality inside karate. First thing I want you to be aware. It's not just, oh, go and run for half an hour as fast as you can, or just make kumite as fast as you can for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, okay? That's playing with luck, okay? You might have results. You will always have results compared to not doing anything, okay? But it's not an optimal way of maximizing your training sessions with karatekas, athletes or non-athletes, okay? So you have a glance on it. You have what we can call the basic endurance versus the specific endurance. This basic endurance is important. You have to develop the ability of your karatekas to endure in longer periods of performance or training. You have to develop their capacity of recovering faster and more when between exercises, between training sessions, when the judge, when the referee stops the fight, between fights in a competition, okay? Or in, for example, in the light parts of katas, you can we use it to recover to the more intense parts you have next, okay? Is important. But the time of having an athlete running and running and running and jump roping, it's done, okay? You have to include this type of training in particular moments during a season, but most of the time you have to develop specific endurance training sessions that will be as close as possible to the physical and mental demands they have to face in the karate they practice, okay? So never forget that. And you have also to know how to manage intensity and have a practical tool to give you your karatekas, athletes or non-athletes, to manage the intensity during the endurance training, because you have several zones of training. For example, you have aerobic capacity, you have the aerobic power, you have an aerobic capacity, you have anaerobic power, okay? All of these make part of a long-term endurance training for your karatekas. And if they don't know how to manage intensity during an exercise, if you don't know how to manage that intensity, what to ask them to do, you won't be able to work inside the zone you desire for your students, okay? That's important because many people forget that, for example, strength, power, and speed training. If you want to train maximal strength, rapid strength, or endurance strength, regardless of being complementary, they are different. they demand different types of protocols. They demand different management of intensity, volume, resting, okay? And endurance training is exactly the same thing. You have different zones, different protocols that will stimulate different parts of endurance, different types of endurance that complement themselves, but have different predominance in Kumite, Kata, whatever. Okay, so this was just a call of attention, because right now I'm teaching the course about endurance training specific for karate in the strength and conditioning specialization I developed for specific for karate. And as I'm teaching this module right now, I thought it was interesting to bring this theme here in the last analysis of these great WKF athletes. Listen, for today I'm done. Please, if you want to go deep, especially into speed and power training, register for our event. The link is in the description below. Register, is free, is totally open. It's a week where I really believe you will enjoy it. Very practical knowledge, everything evidence-based, and I think you will start seeing speed and power development in another way, and we'll have more tools to give to all your karatekas, regardless of goal, age, physical level, etc. Okay, thank you very much. See you next week, and cheers, my friends.